So is the United Nations General Assembly simply a glorified talking shop for world leaders? People such as President Ahmadinejad, Robert Mugabe, President Bush, President Chavez to come and strut their stuff? Or is there something more? Behind the scenes, real deals are being worked out, real politics, real diplomacy is being worked on too. From Darfur to the Middle East to climate change, crucial decisions will be taken that affect the people of the world this week in New York. You mentioned that the Middle East, Iran, Iraq, all of these issues are going to be quite prominent over the coming week at the General Assembly. I wonder, with this sort of renewed focus on Iran's nuclear program, talk of possible new sanctions, talk too from the French Foreign Minister last week of, in extremis, the use of war. How do you think it's best to try and resolve the difficulties that are outstanding with Iran, with other countries? How do you think you can get countries to go for dialogue rather than letting this situation get out of control?
First of all, as a matter of principle, all conflict issues should better be resolved in a peaceful manner through dialogue. This is my firm belief. And I understand that even French government has toned down their positions, which was made by French Foreign Minister. Now, most important things, the core of the problem is that Iranian authorities must comply fully with the Security Council resolution. There was an agreement between IAEA and Iranian authorities, even though it may not be perfectly satisfactory. This agreement, I hope, will be implemented by Iranian authorities faithfully and transparent manner with the view to addressing the ultimate goal of fully complying with the Security Council resolution.
And with Iraq, there's renewed pressure for the United Nations to perhaps begin to return to Iraq in some numbers. Of course, there's a worry too amongst some of your staff that given what happened before to the UN mission and the terrible attack on the UN headquarters in Baghdad, there are concerns amongst them about their safety. You spoke recently at a very moving memorial for people from the UN who lost their lives in that bomb attack. What assurances can you give to the United Nations staff that their safety will be uppermost?
While implementing Security Council Resolution 1770, authorizing and requesting United Nations to increase our presence and activities, the safety and security of our own staff will be a paramount interest. And I'd like to ensure our staff that I will take all possible measures, including building an integrated structure of accommodations in Baghdad to ensure safety of our staff. At the same time, it is necessary that the international community, together with the United Nations, should help Iraqi people so that they will be able to overcome these political and security difficulties and also engage in socio-economic reconstruction from war-torn situations. This is what the international community should do. I have convened international compact to discuss these issues, and I'm going to convene a high-level meeting together with Prime Minister Maliki on September 22nd in New York to, first of all, discuss the implementation of Security Council resolution where United Nations can increase our presence and activities in the area of political facilitation, promoting national reconciliation, and encouraging regional cooperation. And secondly, check status of international compact, which I convened early May in Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt.
Do you think the United Nations will effectively be going in to pick up the pieces after effectively a civil war, I suppose? And do you think that much of your work will be humanitarian work, apart from state building, because there's been such suffering there too?
State building should be the subject. The Iraqi government and people should do their own role. with the help of United Nations and international community, we will continue to help their such role. And United Nations has a broad humanitarian responsibilities in helping people and also refugees coming out of Iraq. These efforts will continue. Our heads of UNHCR as well as UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, they have been actively engaging and talking to Iraqi people and other international donor communities.
Secretary General, another area of conflict, of course, still in the Middle East, Israel and the Palestinian territories. We see rockets still launched from Gaza into Israel. We see Israel saying that Gaza must be reckoned to be a hostile territory with all that that means. Do you sometimes feel that it's one step forward, two back with the UN's efforts around Israel, whether it be Gaza or southern Lebanon? And what do you think the priority there for you is in Israel-Palestine?
I'm concerned by the announcement by Israeli government calling this Gaza as a hostile area or enemy area, cutting off all necessary humanitarian assistance like fuel and electricity. There are 1.4 million Palestinian people whose daily life have been put to danger. United Nations has broad humanitarian responsibility and is mandated to provide necessary assistance to these people. We hope that the Israeli government will fully cooperate with all these humanitarian situations. At the same time, I would like to say that this rampant rocket fire into Israel by extremist militants is just unacceptable, and I deplore that kind of situation. I fully understand at the same time the genuine security concern of Israeli government and people. I would urge at this time that both Hamas and the Palestinian authorities, they should think about the unity of Palestinians, and Israeli government also think about the humanitarian situations on this matter. I'm going to convene a quartet meeting on Sunday, September 23rd here in New York. And after that, I will again have a meeting with the quartet principals, with the former Prime Minister Tony Blair, as well as major key players of Arab partners. I hope through these meetings we will be able to discuss more in depth to promote the Middle East peace process, to discuss about the humanitarian situation in Palestinian, how to promote the unity of Palestinians.
You mentioned the quartet. Do you think that the quartet, and now with former Prime Minister Tony Blair as a member of it, is going to have a more influential role in helping to build Palestinian statehood, a more influential role in bringing perhaps Gaza and the West Bank together? Is that how you see the quartet developing?
Quartet representative Mr. Tony Blair has been actively engaging in talks with leaders in the region. He is mandated to discuss all this help institution building in the Palestinian area. We have given full support and cooperation in his activities. I'm looking forward to meeting him in person and also in the quartet meeting. This quartet meeting will discuss all the aspects. First of all, by that time, Secretary Rice of United States will have returned from her trip to Middle East region, and we will also have an opportunity of listening to Tony Blair about his visions and his activities, and we will also have an opportunity of engaging dialogue with the Arab partners.
Secretary General, you'll remember a time when shuttle diplomacy was a phrase much used, and when perhaps the United States played a more pivotal role in the Middle East. Secretary of States would be in and out of Jerusalem and Cairo and all the rest of it. Do you think that essentially the United Nations is actually beginning to fill that role again, and being seen as the real honest middleman? Because essentially shuttle diplomacy from one country is not always going to be seen by others as being as fair as the United Nations.
United Nations can play such a role. United Nations has a broad mandate and responsibility in addressing all the political and humanitarian and security issues. That's what I'm committed to do, and that's why I have paid my visits at the early stage of my tenure this year to many countries in the region. I'm going to continue as one member of the principal members of Quartet. This Quartet has been re-energized and re-strengthened with the direct and active involvement of all the parties, as well as appointment of Mr. Tony Blair as a Quartet representative.
Looking back at your past year, this baptism of fire you've had, personally, what has been the most fulfilling thing for you? And that's apart from traveling with journalists all over the world, by the way.
It has been very busy and hectic days for me during the last 9 months as a Secretary General. I have seen many challenges. I have learned a great deal from my own experience in dealing with leaders of the world. But still, I think this is only the beginning. There are so many challenges waiting for the United Nations involvement. I know that there is a high level of expectation. Whenever I think of such challenges and expectation on the United Nations, I feel very much humbled. But I am fully committed and energized to carry out my duties with the strong support from member states.
Thank you very much indeed, Secretary.
Thank you very much. It has been a great pleasure. Shukran jazilan.